You guys didn't know you were coming to a poetry reading. But now you're trapped. My name is Molly Fisk. I am here partly as a poet and partly as an interested citizen, since I've been a longtime customer of Spiral, and I also run most of my business through the internet, teaching writing online. I would like to introduce you to John Paul, the CEO of Spiral Internet.
Molly, before you go on, there's one more thing.
Wait a minute. Cut. Silence, no lasers. Stop it. John, Halloween is tomorrow.
Oh. I'll be back.
Is there anybody here who doesn't know who he was trying to be? So, in March of 2010, Spiral had a video made of a lot of local people partying and parading and having general merriment and revelry in order to seduce the people at Google into making us one of their Google Fiber locations. And we did this through a video that's called 95959 Google, and here it is.
We have such a long history of innovation and ingenuity that actually stems from the gold rush. Inventions such as the long-distance telephone comes from this area in the 1800s. Today we're actually known as the Silicon Valley of the Sierras, as well as a cultural and artistic haven. I've actually had the great privilege of traveling well over 50 countries around the world, and I was the first woman to complete a solo winter trek of Alaska, so I've actually seen a lot. But I've never seen a place like this. Our pioneering spirit, our ingenuity is a perfect fit for the Google project.
And it is my honor today, on behalf of the city, to welcome you all to the 95959 Google Rally. Thank you for coming. Given our existing foundation of technology firms here, I think that's a real plus, that we're not starting from zero. We already have people who really know what to do with a gigabit.
When you're watching news, sports, or entertainment programming, whether it be on your television, on the web, or even a mobile phone, you're watching Grass Valley Group's equipment at work. We started right here in Grass Valley over 50 years ago and now have offices in 20 countries worldwide. We have been and continue to be on the forefront of video technology innovation with access to an ultra-high-speed network, such as Google's fiber network. We can speed our innovation and bring dynamic new services and products to our customers all over the world.
Telestream is one of the local high-tech companies here that's focused on video. Now, with high definition playing such a critical role in our industry today, the average file size has grown tremendously, often exceeding 40 to 50 gigabits now. Daily, we ship these files many times between our development centers and our customers. So having ultra high-speed connectivity would be a huge deal for our company. On the personal side, we're located in the beautiful Sierra Nevada foothills. To attract key talent to this region, we need fast connectivity for those employees in their residences. Today, that just doesn't exist. So we would welcome Google here with open arms.
And one of the things that broadband does and fast access does is it unites us. No matter where you sit politically, no matter where you sit religiously, no matter what your beliefs are, you understand that the internet these days is crucial to be in the world, to be a part of the world, and to be connected to your community.
A well-connected community is a civically engaged community, and we currently live stream our city and council meetings. However, many people who want to tune in are unable to at this time. We really need to take it to the next level and fully engage and let our citizens interact with their local governments, providing greater transparency, accountability, and civic participation.
Rural America needs broadband access, and we are the place who will help you deploy it, help you test it, and make it work.
Technology plays a large part in education today across all grade and age levels and curricular areas. And students who have access to internet connections and higher connectivity and greater speed can greatly benefit from that. In Nevada County, we have a large number of kids who don't have that access, and so they're at an extreme disadvantage. We're really excited that this project might bring access to those students, and who knows where they're going to go with that.
We had a Google bit, we'd Google in the morning, we'd Google in the evening.
My company, based in Video Valley, is creating the next generation of content delivery platform, which is designed for media processing, real-time image analysis, and metadata streaming over broadband. The availability of bandwidth is critical because the larger the neural pathways between computationally dense nodes, the richer the technical possibilities for exploration.
We'd Google in the morning, we'd Google in the evening, all over this land.
I'm the VP of Impulse Devices, and we do fundamental physics research and collaborate with a group of universities around the country. The Google Ultra High-Speed Internet would help us collaborate and work together with our partners in a more effective way.
All over this land. We had a Google bed, we Googled.
So I'm doing my 4th startup. It's cloud-based web mining. And what I've learned from the past startups is that success and failure is more about having the right talented people versus technology. If we had an ultra-high-speed internet network here in Nevada County, it would make it much, much easier to attract the talented people you need to be successful.
Our brothers and our sisters,
I live in Nevada County and work at a major television news station in Sacramento, 60 miles away. Being live is key to covering a community. With an ultra high-speed internet connection, we can eliminate bringing up sat trucks or microwave trucks. I envision hooking up my camera to the laptop, dialing into the station's servers, and bingo, we're live from Nevada County, made possible by Google.
Thank you.
So, what comes after a rally? A march.
Google should choose us because we have so much great stuff to share with the rest of the world.
It would be the perfect place to do testing because we have everything a large city has in a rural area.
Or were we infidels with our handshakes on our guns?
Everything you need to live in highest quality is right here. Google Bits will only help that.
The secret book on the coffee table. Can't you see where the ladies favor? Lo behold, it's a great big blindfold.
Because we're a great community and we help each other, and I think that's wonderful.
Community Radio, KVMR FM, Nevada City.
Lo behold, it's a great big blindfold. Don't think twice, just do as you're told. Reminisce.
I would really like it if Google picked us.
We're the right fit for a Google bit. 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 We're the right fit for a paradox? Is the orthodox untrue? Will you come together where you came unglued?
How's this, Molly? A little better. Okay, don't roll away too far. Thank you all for coming tonight. When we found out last Friday that we sold out, it was pretty amazing. All of us at Spiral had a bet if it was going to do it, and then that night we sold out. So I'm going to start out by talking about how we got to this point. And I'll try to do this. I have three different hands here. So how we got here to become Northern California's first gigabit fiber to the home project. In May of 2006, Chip Carmen and I, who are business partners, got a phone call from the board of directors of NCCN, and they said, you know, we have a customer base, we have some, not surprisingly, bad contracts with AT&T, we really want to move our customers on to a new provider. The nonprofit is really not going to be sustainable, and would you like to take us over? And we thought about it and called them back and said yes, and that started our journey. We knew from day one that we'd have to do something different because a lot of the customers were still dial-up in 2006. Some were DSL. So it took us 3 or 4 years. We went through a couple of iterations of a federal grant which didn't come through, and then Google announced on one fateful morning, I think it was in February of 2010, they said, we're going to pick a city. And I looked at Chip and I said, should we apply? He said, sure. So I walked across the street to then city manager Gene Allbaum's home and said, or office, and said, hey, can we apply on behalf of Nevada City? And he said, sure, go for it. And we did. It became all of Western Nevada County. So between 2010 and 2012, when we kind of thought that Google was going to pick another city, we started going to conferences and realized that, you know what? We could build this fiber optic network. People are doing it all across the country. There are people in rural areas that are actually have faster speeds than people in Chicago or New York City or San Francisco. And we got a lot of support from those people. Some of those places are up there that we went to. So we started looking at technology, and then you start looking at, well, who do you want to use, Ericsson or Calix? And we went through a lot of analysis about what kind of technology to use with fiber to the home, and we picked a provider for that, and whether the poles, the fiber should be on poles or underground. And if any of you have looked at the poles here recently, hanging another set of wires on those poles is probably not a great idea, so we didn't. We're going to go underground. And then we started using, we decided, so where do we start building in Nevada County? And again, through our resources, through the conferences we went through, we hired a firm from near Washington, D.C. that came out and did a feasibility study for us. And I'll talk to you more about the result of that and why we picked what we did. This was all moving toward the fact that the California Public Utilities Commission was about to release money to build better networks in rural California. And we knew we wanted some of that money to go forward. So in February 2013, we submitted a grant application after a lot of work. Steve Blum, who's here tonight, helped us with that. It was an amazing process to get that out the door. We were told when we submitted it, it was one of the best grant applications they've ever seen. That was kind of cool. And but we weren't asking for chump change. We were asking for $15.2 million. And of course, that was a lot to them. They had the money, but that was a lot. And we had to explain to them through this process that when you're building a fiber network that's going to last 100 years, why wouldn't it cost that much? I mean, it amortized out to $100 a year per household. I said, isn't that reasonable for building something like this? And they kind of agreed, and they also saw our project as being very worthwhile. So what happens with that process is you get challenged by the incumbents. So Comcast challenged us, and Suddenlink challenged us, and some of the local fixed wireless providers challenged us, and we went through a 2-year process of challenging back and saying, no, they're wrong, they're wrong, they're wrong. Even Verizon Wireless challenged us. They said, we provide really high internet speeds in rural California. Okay. So we're going after 13.2 in private investment. We've assembled a really great team, and I'll introduce them later in the evening. Our future phases, that's assembling the team, I'm looking at the wrong there. Our future phases will be 11,000 households and 150 businesses. And we're kind of building the future here. Initially, Spiral will be hiring 7 new employees. The real impact will be, we have 5 construction crews that are going to be building out the door, so over the course of the next year period, we'll be hiring between 70 and 80 people to do that. The economic impact we saw in other cities, Kansas City, you'll hear more about that tonight, but towns like Chattanooga, Danville, Lafayette, Louisiana, much smaller cities were really benefiting from this. And what also will impact us will be the first rural county in Northern California to have gigabit access, and we're in close enough proximity to the Bay Area that we're going to be a magnet for people, we're hoping. Also, we're going to talk more about this later in the evening, but telemedicine, long-distance learning, and this whole concept of the Internet of Things, where everything starts being connected, is going to happen. So, what's interesting about this, and I think we said this at our 95959 Google rally, is that it's about connecting community, and it's about communicating better, and it's about connecting our communities to other communities, and this is just the start of it. And we're going to have a report later in the evening from an all-day workshop we had today where a group of 50 people from Nevada County came together and visioned what we look like 10 years from now, so you also hear about that. But none of this would have happened except for one day when Chip and I were sitting around, we didn't get our wireless grant, we were wondering what we were going to do. And I said, well, what do you really want to do? Because whatever you want to do, let's make it happen. He said, you know, I've always wanted to build a network. And I said, okay, a fiber network? He goes, yeah. And I said, you're not going to stop me, we're going to move forward. And here we are today, starting this process. Now, in the middle of all this, when we submitted our grant application, Chip last year was diagnosed with esophageal cancer, which, if you ever had a spouse or a friend or a parent who went through any kind of cancer treatment, it's a pretty horrific experience, and you get fearless and caring and loving. And Chip passed away within 6 months, so tomorrow will be the year anniversary of his passing, so it's kind of ironic that this is happening tonight. He thought before he died that we really were going to build a network sooner. It took a little bit longer, but here we are, and so this evening is really for Chip. And so I'd like to bring up County Supervisor and Chair of the Board of Supervisors, Nate Beeson, and also Chip Carmen's family. Joe Carmen, his dad, John Carmen, his brother, Stacy Carmen, his sister-in-law, and Jason Carmen, his nephew, who are my family too.
Okay, well, you know, the last time I was up here, I was here to honor an Olympic champion. And I'm here again tonight to honor another champion who championed our community. And Chip, I met him, we went through NCCLI together, the Nevada County Community Leadership Institute, in 2002. And I think we finished in June of 2003. And right off the bat, I knew he was a very gifted person. And I would like to go on longer, but I'm limited in time. I just want to say that I want to put my personal seal on what this certificate says about Chip tonight and how important he has been You know, we're not honoring the past or his memory alone. We're honoring the future and the perpetuation of what he and John started. So I'm going to, if you'll bear with me, I'm going to read this whole thing. And it's kind of an eye test. But I really can't read the English language, so forgive me if I... And this is a certificate of recognition for Chip Carman. The Nevada County Board of Supervisors takes great pleasure in recognizing Chip Carman, co-founder of Spiral Internet and the driving force responsible for bringing a gigabit fiber optic network to Nevada County. Shortly after moving to Nevada County in 1997, Chip became an active proponent of bringing better internet access to the area. He served as a member of the Telecommunications Committee of the Nevada County Economic Resource Council for over 10 years. It was his expertise and passion that led the board of the Nevada County Community Network, NCCN, to ask Spiral to take over its customer base when the nonprofit closed in 2006. Chip's vision and ability to see the future placed Spiral Internet on track immediately to identify ways to bring faster and more reliable internet service to Nevada County. In 2008, he spearheaded Spiral Internet's initiative and partnership with the Nevada County Economic Resource Council to secure American Recovery and Reinvestment Act funding to build a robust middle-mile wireless network. The project would have connected hundreds of unserved households to broadband internet access and also have provided capacity for public safety communications. When that project was declined funding in 2010, Chip turned Spiral's focus and vision to something much bigger and better. When asked what he wanted to do, he said, "I want my legacy to be that I built a gigabit fiber optic network." Chip played the key technical role in drafting and defending a California Advanced Services Fund grant application for a compelling and viable fiber optic internet project for Western Nevada County that was submitted by Spiral in February 2013. When diagnosed with cancer in May 2013, Chip hoped to live to see the grant funding approved and the network built. On October 31st, 2013, he succumbed to the disease without knowing that his legacy's goals would be met. And it looks like they will, by the way. The Nevada County Board of Supervisors honors and recognizes Chip Carman for his untiring devotion toward the betterment of Nevada County and in celebration of the culmination of his life's dream. Thanks. Would you like to Now don't go away. I'm going to hog another minute here. I'm here to honor Chip, but you cannot talk about him without talking about John. And you've done a great job. And together, these folks built a system that I think is going to explode. And it's going to continue to explode in what in the military we call secondary charges. Secondary. And it's in place. I think we're going to get the money, and John's going to light the fuse. Yeah. He's going to thank you.
So I'll wait till the Carman family sits down. One thing that I wanted to do for us to always remember that legacy. Uh-oh, my connection was lost. It's appropriate, isn't it? We're back. We'll change that. We're going to make it better. One thing I wanted to do, I wanted us to always remember when we talked about this network, and we are calling it the Bright Fiber Network. And it went the wrong way. Now it's, there we go. We're really calling it the Chip Carman Bright Fiber Network. So on every piece of conduit, everything, there'll be a plaque. We'll always remember that it was Chip's idea to move this forward for our community. And that's kind of cool. So We sent bios about all our speakers tonight, so you'd read them ahead of time and we wouldn't have to introduce them, so we're not going to do that. We're not going to read bios up here. But part of what happened over the course of the many years we've been working towards this goal is that we met extraordinary people across the country who stuck their necks out, were doing visionary things, were really moving their communities forward, or even on a national level, moving things forward. And our keynote speaker tonight is a man I heard speak a number of times at these conferences and that we attended, and Blair Levin is somebody who inspired me every time I heard him. He always had something new to say. He always had some little kick to keep us moving forward as we move through this process. And I can be pretty audacious, and I said, Blair, would you come out and speak at our event? And then I had to postpone it 3 times because we were waiting for the funding to happen. but he stuck it through with us, and Blair's current vision is he runs an organization called Gig.U, and the whole premise around that is, what if we took our university towns and hooked them up with gigabit fiber connectivity, and then that's where our brain trust lies as a country. That would start this revolution across the country, and he's been really actively pursuing that and pushing that to make it happen in any way possible. And I told him last night, we had a small gathering last night with the speakers who came. I said, we noticed that on your map, the only university in California is Cal Poly. And I've been talking to Stephanie Ortiz, who's the dean of Sierra College here, and she would love to join that rank at some point. So we haven't convinced him quite yet, but I'd like to introduce Blair Levin.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be here. As you might have read in my bio, I had the great honor of running the National Broadband Plan, a document that came out in 2010, and through that process and through others, I may have spoken in more communities about broadband than anybody else. But I really have to tell you, this is really the most extraordinary gathering that I've ever been to in terms of community broadband. I think this may be the smallest community I've ever spoken at, but it is definitely the highest per capita turnout. And that's what really counts. But it's not, as I think you all know, it's not about the technology. It's about what the technology enables a community to do. And you really see that community spirit here, and the love and the respect that you all have for each other, and your desire to make it a better place to live, which causes me to ask the following question that I want to start it off with. What is the opposite of tragedy? Anybody want to hazard a guess? This is not a trick question. You know what the answer is. Comedy. Yes, it is true that Hamlet and Seinfeld probably were kind of opposite ways of addressing the world, but that's true in entertainment. In real life, tragedy is things going badly, and comedy are things going amusingly, but not necessarily things going well. And the reason I ask that question is there's an economic concept called the tragedy of the commons, and the idea here is that individuals may do things that serve their individual self-interest, but result in the destruction of a common resource that we need. We see this with air, we see this with water. The iconic example where that was kind of the derivation of the term was the commons, where the sheep would feed, and individual sheep herders would let their sheep eat too much, and that was the tragedy of the commons. But I think we should ask ourselves, what's the untragedy of the commons? And the fact that economics has not come up with a term to describe it, there is no antonym to tragedy in this sense, doesn't mean that we don't have it. My favorite personal example of the untragedy of the commons in my own recent times is something called the High Line in New York. I don't know if folks have been there, but you had this resource, this railroad that was sitting there above ground, and they were going to destroy it, but instead someone had the brilliant idea to turn it into a park. And if any of you go to New York, you know, it is for this century what Central Park was for several centuries ago. It is a resource that will last for 100 years, hundreds of years, and make life better for everybody. But it's not just something that kind of makes life slightly better. It's actually an extraordinary economic dynamo. It has resulted in over $2 billion of investment right around the High Line. Property values have massively, more than doubled in terms of the property right around it. And that's what we're really talking about tonight, because the Gigabit network is the commons. It is something that we will all share. And your community, by virtue of the work that all of you are doing to produce it, will create a similar kind of both economic boom, but also social tool to create that commons. Now, you'll be discussing what is a gigabit, why do you need a gigabit? I would just note that the Pew Foundation recently put out a study about 2 weeks ago talking about what would be applications for the gigabit era, interviewed 1,400 people. The most significant finding was that 86% believed that there will be very compelling applications by the year 2025. That may seem like a long time away, but as John is going to, as you know, it'll be 5 to 7 years before you build it out. So you get to be on the cutting edge and in the front line of discovering what those things are and inventing what those things are. The report talked really about, while people had different points of view, there were 3 consistent themes in that report: health, education, and business collaboration. You've already discussed this. In fact, the video, which I totally love it. Is that online somewhere? Yeah, I hope it is, because I want to share it with a number of friends. But you guys all captured that, whether the telemedicine, the health, the business collaboration. Obviously, there's a great history here of technology and video. As we move to 4K video, you're going to have it. But with the gigabit networks, this would be a great place to have all kinds of economic development businesses that will really drive the future of this area. But you also want to attract families, and of course, a family might say, you know what, this town isn't big enough to have the kind of physics professor that I want my kid to be able to study physics with in high school. But the gigabit networks will enable a kid here to be able to access the best classes anywhere in the world. You might want to attract people who have health concerns, who maybe need access to greater specialists. But again, the gigabit network enables someone through kind of a 4K hookup telemedicine. You can have the kind of access to expertise that would enable people who might think they don't want to live here to really say, hey, it's such a beautiful place, it's such a friendly place, it's really nice to have a downtown where that's really walkable. So you get rid of those barriers. And that's really, but the truth is, and I think you'll hear more about this later, you get to invent it by being on the front line of these things. Now, we're pretty early into this, but there's already economic evidence that there's a big impact of having this kind of network. University of Colorado study indicated that a home that got hooked up to fiber, the property values would increase about $5,000, which I think is cheap on a per home cost. Is, you know, you're in the ballpark there. In terms of economic development, having access to this kind of fiber is, if you're doing economic development recruitment, you've seen it go from literally nowhere to being one of the top things that folks look at and ask for. Recent study came out from the Fiber to the Home Council that talked about $1.4 billion in increased GDP in the 14 communities that many of which John has visited because of the extra economic impact. And you'll hear a little bit from the folks in Kansas City about that. They'd have more economic impact if they had won the World Series the other night, but I have to say, in all honesty, World Series trophy, gigabit fiber, I'd go for the gigabit fiber. That's the way I am, I'm sorry. You all may disagree. I know you disagree. My 2 sisters who live in the Bay Area absolutely disagree, but you have to think long term. In any event, certainly there's some economic evidence to indicate that this kind of thing really does drive it. And of course, there's a lot of anecdotal evidence, which you'll hear more about in terms of Kansas City, that entrepreneurs flock to areas that have greater bandwidth. And so I just want to close with a map of what I think of as the game of gigs. A couple years ago, when we were doing the National Broadband Plan and then on to Gig.U, Gigabit America was a pretty empty place. But in the last few years, something's happened. And a lot of it, frankly, was driven by some of the visionary work by people like Ann, who you hear from, and at NTIA, who were giving out dollars to help drive faster networks. And my friend Larry Strickland, who ran the program, did a fantastic job making it more available in the country. A lot of it was driven by Google Fiber, because they kind of lighted a fire, not just here, but in a lot of other places. But it was really mostly driven by local mayors who understood that everything they do 10 years from now will depend on a very high quality network. And that many things that they're doing now will affect the network they have 10 years from now. The question that I always ask whenever I meet with the mayor is, do you think the network that you have now will be good enough 10 years from now? And the answer is always no. And so then it's, okay, now what do we do about it? And a result of what they've been doing, we now have a very different picture. We have a game of gigs, and what you really see here is, by the way, I don't think this map is necessarily, it's not the same here. You're not going to have a, Google Fiber is not coming here. I know their criteria. I wish they would, but they're not. I'm not sure AT&T is going to come here or Comcast, but it's very interesting to see what happened. Google announced 34 communities that they were going to, and immediately the telcos started saying, oh my God, we need to do this too. And I think that's great for America. I think it's going to be, but it also means that what you're doing now isn't just a good thing, it's a really necessary thing. Now, one company, by the way, I don't know, you may not find this as amusing as I, one company that's not up here is Comcast, which serves you. So what happened was, Google and Gig.U, we announced a number of communities. AT&T then said, okay, we'll see you those communities, and we'll do a few more. And then Cox, which competes with AT&T, said, we'll see you and we'll do a few more. And CenturyLink, which competes with Cox, says, we'll see those and we'll do a few more. And then Comcast said, we're going to go to the trademark office. We're not offering any gigabit service, but we're going to go to the trademark office and trademark the term true gig. I'm not making it up. Some people respond by saying, let's compete in the market, and some people respond by saying, let's send our lawyers to kind of tie up the intellectual property. Different strokes for different folks, I suppose. But my point is, this is a great game for America. We'll see whether it plays out. Right now, it's a lot of press releases. In the next couple of years, there should be a lot of activity. But the really interesting thing was, about 3 years ago when we were with Gig.U, we said we really like a gig, and the person from Comcast got up and said, no problem, we can offer you a gig. $7,000 a month, $7,000 installation fee, 3-year pre-commit. We had that reaction, except in about 10 times the volume. Now, Cox, which said they would never do it because it would cost billions, and obviously Comcast are looking at selling it at about $70 a month, without the $7,000 installation fee and without necessarily a pre-commit. So what changed? And this is the most important thing to understand. We don't think of it this way, but we buy broadband as a community. What changed was all of these communities up here had figured out ways of incentivizing people to offer broadband so that they could buy that gig at about $70 a month. You're doing it differently than these communities, but the fundamental message I want to leave you with is you're going to get all those benefits that you wanted from Google, not because Google came and offered you a gig, but because you yourselves, with tremendous leadership, with tremendous energy and tremendous enthusiasm for your own community, you're going to make it happen for yourself, and you're going to get the benefits that you were talking about a few years ago. So thank you very much. It's a great honor to be here.
think this says you dream it and they will come. Thanks, Blair, for coming all across the country from Washington, D.C. to be here with us. What it takes to do this is more than 2 people. Chip and I started it, but now we're assembling a team because it's going to take a lot of people to pull it off. So I want to introduce that team. Some of them you know, some of them you're going to meet tonight. The first person who's been with us for 8 years is Bex Ramspott. Bex, come on up. How many people have talked to Bex on the phone? Look at that, there's your fan club. He likes cookies and Chinese food. But not chocolate cookies, right? Okay. So then we were talking and Bex said, you know, it'd be great if we had some support through this process. And so Andy Egberson, who's here, where's Andy at? Andy, come on up here. Andy is now our second tech support person at Spiral Internet. We're also calling him the video monster because if you know Andy, he's all about video. And every day he's feeding me press releases and look at what's happening in video, look what's doing. He's going to be a great member of the team as we move forward. The next person that you kind of look for when you the next person you look for in the team is your chief operating officer. And you know, what's great about a small town is sometimes they show up really close to you. So my neighbor, Barry Collins and I have been walking our dogs, sometimes in opposite directions, for years. And we started talking when this was happening, and he goes, you know, I could be your chief operating officer. I've done that. Barry Collins, come on up. He is Spiral's new chief operating officer. And he's fabulous. And I can just go next door and knock on his door. The next person that I brought on real recently is about 3 years ago, you may remember we did a bunch of community meetings. How many people were at those meetings? We were trying to generate interest for them. Thank you for staying with us this long. And I was up on U-Bet Road, and one of the people who organized our community had this amazing turnout. And as we were walking out, I said to Chip, we're going to hire her. And I just brought Sandy Jansen on. She is our neighborhood coordinator. She's going to be working with everybody in every neighborhood to make sure you know about what we're doing, get your neighbors on board as we construct. This is Sandy. You will all get to know her. So the other thing you have to do when you do a network is it has to be designed, and there's a lot of design that goes into it, and you have to make it work. And we got lucky in this process as we found somebody who has a bazillion years of working on networks, came from AT&T years ago, but now wants to work with us. And I want to introduce Ray Anderson, who's coming out of the Spiral team. And these folks were in our mind already last year before Chip passed away, but when Chip passed away, what I realized that Spiral was missing was someone who thinks ahead. Chip always thought years ahead and made me cuckoo. Because it was like, well, what about this? And I go, we didn't do this yet. Everyone thought I was the one who was leaping forward, but he was the one always leaping forward. And I was walking around my circle with my dog, and I thought, oh my gosh, I know who this person is. Michael Anderson is the co-owner of ClientWorks. I've known him for years. He and his wife, Lori Gordon, own ClientWorks, and they also jumped in for 95959 Google and helped us with that event. And I asked Michael if he'd come on as our CIO, which is Chief Information Officer, but he wants to call it Chief Imagination Officer. And so Michael's going to come on incrementally as we move forward. So this is where we start. We have some other people on board. I can't reveal who they are yet because they're actually working for other people right now, so mom's at work, don't tell anybody. But as the time goes on, you'll get to introduce the rest of us. This is the team. I'm really excited to be working with you, and this is the night, folks. This is our night. Thanks so much. This is fun doing this. This is cool. So, part of the process of coming up with doing this event is, yeah, you stay up, Michael. So part of the process in coming to this event is last year I was at Chip and I were both at a conference in Kansas City, and we jumped at the chance to go because that was where Google Fiber started. And we heard a panel of 3 individuals who were key in one, bringing Google to Kansas City, and two of them who were really instrumental in saying, what are we going to do with this? What do, you know, Google's not going to tell us, and clearly they're not. So what do we do with this? And so I, in my audacious way, I walked up to them and I said, hey, would you come to Nevada City in California whenever we do this event? And they said, sure. And so our first, we have a panel tonight that's going to be introduced by Michael. And then we have another panelist who I met over, I just want to give a little background on this, who I met over the course of the last year, who works for NTIA, which is under the Department of Commerce, and who's really excited about broadband in this country, and Michael will introduce them all. This is Michael Anderson, our CIO, and continue.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for being here. So my co-panelist, host will be Jesse Locks. Jesse is the festival director for the Nevada City Film Festival, which has been going on for 15 years. So Jesse?
All right, how's everyone doing so far? Good? You feeling good? Vibes? All right, so we're gonna go ahead and introduce our panel. We're going to start down at the end with Neville, and she has one of the most amazing titles ever, which is the Director of California State Broadband Initiative at the U.S. Department of Commerce's National Telecommunication and Information Administration. I didn't take a breath. And then sitting next to Ann is Deacon. He's the Managing Director for KC Digital Drive. It's a nonprofit startup that finds technology solutions for social and civic problems. He's also from Kansas City and worked with the mayor's office on their initiatives. So welcome, Aaron.
And sitting next to Aaron is Michael Burke, who is Director and CEO of Burke Payne Associates. That's his day job. But he's also co-founder of KC Digital Drive, and he chaired the Launch KC initiative, which is how Google found Kansas City and was able to choose them. So, welcome, Michael. All right, so I think we're going to start by asking a question for all 3 of you. We're going to sit down. The first question is for all 3 of you, and we do have limited time, so if you could just sort of quickly touch on this, the question is, what are some of the components of a gigabit community? What does it look like? Start with you.
Sure, so I think what a gigabit community looks like is what you guys have in this room right now. What many of you were at the visioning session earlier today, and what it started with is a vision of some people, a vision then of a community taking that on and owning that, and the ability to think without constraints. And that's what the gigabit community allows you to do, because it may not be about an individual gigabit application. It's about being able to think about many different applications that take up a lot of bandwidth. So maybe someone in one room is running an educational application, someone in another room is watching a soccer game that's being transmitted in 4K from London, and someone else in the other room is looking at, how to control the heat and whether they can, whether they're using more water than they did last month. And all of that is because they're not constrained by any bandwidth. And so at an individual level in a home, at a small business level, and at a big institutional level, allows you to think without constraints.
Great. Aaron?
I would add to that, see if this is the right place. So part of that thinking without constraints is to be intentional. When you talk about a gigabit, and Google uses a tagline about it being 100 times faster, nobody thinks about things that are 100 times beyond what there is now. So they're communities who are intentional and thoughtful about how they plan for their technology future. I also think it's really important to remember both the words. And so Andrew's talked about the community, which you have here in spades, clearly. One of the things that is important as you build it out is remember the gigabit too. So you'll hear a lot of people, if you come to Kansas City, say, well, you know, the biggest thing was the community. And some have gone so far to say, and we don't even really care about the gigabit anymore. Which, on the one hand, is great, but on the other hand, remember that you can actually do things with the technology. So you've got to have the network, and once you get that in place, do really cool things with it.
I think the experience we've had in Kansas City, and we were asked by our mayors to write a playbook. That's what we did on what it means to have this wonderful asset in your city. And in the introduction, we put in bold print, it's about 90% sociology and 10% technology. And I think, especially during the presentations during the day, the groups that we had talking about what it means to Nevada County to be a gigabit area, you really get it in this community. You really do. And I think what the gigabit has done to our area is truly energized our tech community, our entrepreneurial community, our governmental and civic community, and refocus our energies. And I think what I saw in the room next door today was your community coming together and understanding this is about the community. I'd like to say it's about Spiral, and it's about what's in the ground, but no, it's about what this will do for the community and what the community can do with this.
And this question's actually for you. What is the plan for gigabit communities on a national level?
So I think what we're seeing, as Blair showed you, is that there is an increasing movement that's often starting locally, with people saying we need more, we can do more, and making plans and starting at a very local level. And increasingly, you're also starting to see regional discussions. You're seeing people talking about where are the middle mile constraints, where not just what's coming into my home, but what's connecting our communities. One of the things we've had the benefit of being able to do over the last 5 years is to support over 200 local community broadband planning teams across the country. And there, what you really see is people excited thinking about what they can do not only today, what are the things they're missing today, but then thinking about where do they want to be and what do they want to do. And that's where you're really seeing the planning coming from. There's a local excitement that is really continuing to build, and I think you're seeing that reverberating everywhere and up and down all levels of our country.
Great, thank you. This next question is again for all three of you, and you can answer this fairly quickly. You've all had a lot of exposure to various, not just in Kansas City, but in other cities. So the question is, what are some of the industries that have benefited from a gigabit fiber optic network? Start with Michael.
First of all, you can pinpoint specific industries, but I want to talk in a little bit more general. What the announcement of the Google fiber in Kansas City did, the impact was before there was a single computer hooked up to fiber. What it did is it brought the community together. It focused what had been a very diverse technology base in Kansas City. We've got some major employers, Sprint and Garmin, and a big healthcare provider, software provider, Cerner. But the entrepreneurial and tech community have been very, very disjointed. It brought that community together. It has certainly brought people back of talent to Kansas City. And once we started attracting more people of talent, we had businesses starting to locate in our city because of the talent. And virtually every business is either tech dependent or tech involved. So the influx of talent and the coalescence of our tech community has really made a major impact.
Aaron?
I'll give you a few specific examples of things that we've seen built on the network. One, surprisingly, is sort of the local telecommunications providers so there was a company called Avid Communications, and after Google came and built out gigabit fiber to a housing development, they were able to then go in and sell voice over internet phone service, security system, and some other sort of over-the-top internet services. And as a local telco, even though you might think, well, this is competing and putting other telecommunications companies out of business, it actually created an infrastructure platform for a local company to come in and offer something new. So that's been really exciting to see. Within healthcare, we have some really innovative pilots going on right now. There's one group out of the University of Missouri who has installed a sensor network that's basically designed to allow people to live in their homes for longer. And this particular project that they have is working on early onset Alzheimer's prediction by sort of keeping track of the way that people are walking through their house. And the lead on this project has actually been able to see when somebody starts walking in different patterns in their home that they're closer to getting Alzheimer's, and they can intervene. A third application that we've seen develop is something called the Software Lending Library. This is something that Casey Digital Drive has been actively sort of project managing and supporting. A very simple concept to be able to check out expensive software from the library without having to actually go to a terminal at the library and use it. So it really has an impact in sort of the educational sphere as well as the small business area. You know, there are video editing software or SPSS, statistical analysis software. It's very expensive that now you can, in theory, just check out from the library at home and have a really great experience over a fast connection.
Yeah.
Another industry I'll mention that hasn't been talked about yet is manufacturing. Advanced manufacturing has a lot of interest in having high capacity bandwidth, and sometimes it's for the ability to do internal operations, sometimes it's for the ability to connect with their business partners, but also it's to scale up. And I think this is, you know, there are a number of really great smaller technology companies in this area, and when you talk about scaling up, that's another place that this infrastructure really comes in. And when you look at manufacturing, that's a place where you've seen a lot of smaller manufacturing firms say, we can't scale up without more capacity and without more reliability. Sometimes there's a speed that's okay, but it's not the reliability. And that's something that these kinds of networks also bring that help move those companies from where they are to that next level of growth.
This question's for Aaron. Mike kind of touched on this in his answer about the entrepreneurs that are in Kansas City. And Nevada County is known for its entrepreneurs. Renette referred to it as the pioneering spirit. And we were wondering, how is this network going to go ahead and benefit the entrepreneurs that are already living in our community and also attract new talent?
Well, you know, it's going to be have a huge impact. It really levels the playing field in a lot of ways. One of the things that the internet is about generally is access, and gigabit internet expands that access. So all of the tools and resources that sometimes you need to be in physical proximity to access, if you're in a city, for example, become that much closer. So whether it's, you know, having sort of teleconferences and video conferencing, or whether it's collaborating over the internet in sort of, if you think about Google Docs or other platforms right now where you can have just a Word document, you know, where you're doing word processing in a shared environment, but you start being able to do that with images, with video, with you know, advanced manufacturing files. That really makes geography much less of a barrier to doing some of those things. So people who are here now, they have that advantage. They have an advantage in terms of having a technology draw, and also, and so that's going to attract more people. We've seen, Mike talked about the Kansas City Startup Village. There was a guy who basically bought a house, he cashed in his retirement account because he wanted a place for people to come and experiment with the network. So a little bit crazy, which is okay, because you need those people. And I think there are some here. So he bought this house, put it up on the internet, and said, hey, if you have a great idea for using fiber, you can come here and live here for 3 months rent-free. And he has been full for the past 2 years. He ended up taking another room in the house and putting it on Airbnb, so he's got people coming through renting. He has entrepreneurs moving. One has a shared, like a music service that lets you have like live jam sessions between cities. There was another company that was a 3D printing. They wanted to do toys for kids. There was somebody who started a company called Sports Photos, which uploads photos in real time. So the assets and the power of the network is really huge for the entrepreneurial community.
Great. This is for Mike, and it's focused on you because you chaired the Launch KC initiative. So we imagine you had a lot of outreach to do with various community organizations in the area. So the question is, what are some of the community projects that have been launched from a Gigabit fiber network?
Well, we have a great many. I want to focus on just a few. First of all, Kansas City is a very diverse population, both by income, racially, economically, and what Google did for us that we're very appreciative is they did a baseline survey of how many households had access to broadband. We found out 25% of our households had no access to broadband, and we found that unacceptable. And we're working with a group called Connecting for Good. And Connecting for Good is aimed at teaching people who do not have access how they can get access, how they can learn the basics of the internet and a computer. And we got $1 million fund that was set up with the help of Google and other local companies to help fund digital education. Because some of the people that need that the most don't have the access. A couple of the other spin-offs, and I'll talk about Launch KC. Launch KC was actually an economic development initiative, and we discovered that the tools that we've been using for economic development for the last 30 years were all related to real estate development. And the kind of development that are what I call 21st century tools. It's about talent, it's about innovation, it's not about real estate. And I think as a community you need to be thinking, what tools can we develop to grow talent and creativity in our community, to keep the talent that we have, and to attract talent from outside the area. And I think the next 2 decades are going to be worldwide competition for talent. I think Nevada County is very well situated to play a role in that. So those are some, we mentioned Startup Village. We have developed a number of new initiatives, everything from the mayor appointing, creating Mayor's Office of Innovation and having a Chief Innovation Officer, to the interconnection of the arts and technology, which I think creativity goes together. The fact that you led off with a poet today impressed me greatly.
So we actually have one more question. Can we do that? No? No, that was it. Well, you know what? Molly Fisk, there you go. Arts, education, technology in Nevada County, that's what we like. Thank you guys so much for coming and sharing what's happening in your communities with us.
Thanks, Jesse, Mike, Aaron, and Ann. It's great. So, what are we doing? We heard what Kansas City's doing. We're here what's going around the country. We're going to build a gigabit network here. So, first a quick primer here about internet access. So, as you know, DSL is vanishing. Those are the speeds up there that you can kind of get with DSL here. Satellite has latency and limits. If you have satellite, you know exactly what that means. It makes you cuckoo. Whoever thought that was a great marketing idea? Yeah, you're using too much internet, we're going to throttle you down for the rest of the month. I don't get it. Fixed wireless is good in some areas here. There's some good speeds coming from our fixed wireless providers, but high forestation and geographic diversity make it nigh impossible to reach most people here. Just a lot of people who live on top of the hills. How did we move to that? Oh, I put the wrong slide in the wrong place. Let's go to this one first. Cellular is expensive. I have, a friend who put a Verizon bucket on his roof, and his first bill out the door, because they use it like regular internet, right? They watch TV, and the kids used it, $600. That's completely unreasonable, and that's Verizon. Cable is our best bet here, but as you know, there's a limit to where it can go, and we're not going to get that gigabit network here from Comcast or something like anytime soon. We're not big enough of a market for them, so we're going to kind of be the status quo. But you can't get, if you have Comcast or Suddenlink here, you're getting pretty decent speed. So think about it. How is your internet? Tell the person next to you what kind of speed you have for a second here. And maybe we can laugh about it a little bit. I know you're all here laughing. We can move forward from this slide. So what was that orange cable that's been going around? Everyone comes up to me and says, is that your project being built? And I go, no. So what happened is a project was funded in California by the stimulus funds, and it's the Central Valley Independent Network is kind of the short version of the name for it. And basically it's going through 18 counties in California, from Bakersfield in the south to Colusa in the north. It's going through Nevada County, but it's a middle-mile project. So there's three schools and the library are going to be hooked up to it. It's not on yet. They're running behind a little bit. But it is a possibility for us to connect to that network and other providers to connect to that network throughout California. So there is a solution here. And our solution is, what if it just worked? What if you turned it on and it just worked? You know, you turned your devices on and things spun or didn't spin, and you just saw things and it happened. So a gigabit symmetrical network is what we came up with, and based on all this, and it's 100% fiber optic all the way to your house. Our phase one, we had a firm come in and help us analyze this, is in South County, so southeast county. So we're going down Dog Bar Road all the way to the Lodestar community and down Highway 174, Brunswick Highway 174, all the way to the Placer border, and then spreading out from that. There's 26 square miles in it, 150 linear miles of cable we're going to have to put in, and there's 2,900 homes and about 300 businesses there. If you work up at Whispering Pines or Crown Point Circle, you know that there's no cable up there, which is really odd, just DSL, and it's getting worse. There's a sneak peek at our future phases. The blue one is the one you saw before. The kind of purple one is surrounding Nevada City. The yellow one kind of grabs everything else. What will it cost? So we're not going to talk about specific price tonight, but there'll be no charge for installation because the grant allows us to build all the way to your house. You'll have to dig a trench to get there, but there'll be no cost to it. You'll be able to cut off your satellite TV because TV is really changing. We could do another evening about where TV is going, but HBO last week untethered itself from the cable companies and the satellite companies. If you have internet, but not cable or satellite, you can now watch HBO. You can watch Game of Thrones or Game of Gig, that's a sequel. And you'll be able to cut off your landline because your cell phone will just work at home. Because, you know, if you have an iPhone, iOS 8 just works with your wireless device in the house now. You don't need any network extender anymore. And that's going to be true of Android phones as well. So one of the things we wanted to do as part of this day was to get a group of about 50 people together who represented the community. And I wanted half of those people to be under 40. And so this morning, starting at 9 a.m., 50 people came into the other room here in the Miners Foundry. And we met for the whole day with trainers from Zing Train, which is an organization out of Ann Arbor, Michigan. If you want to look them up, it's the Zingerman family of businesses. And Zingerman's Deli is awesome. And Zing Train resulted after years of them working as a business. And we brought those trainers out here to work with our community to come up with a vision. And I'd like to bring two people up here who represent today. Robert Bergman and Kim Stewart are going to talk a little bit about what happened today. And all I have to say while they're walking up is, I got teary-eyed by the end of it when they were reading what happened.
Hi, my name is Kim Stewart, and I represent the town of Washington. So you saw that little purple dot that was way up there. That's me on phase 2. I'm way ahead of you, phase 3. I'm getting HBO for you guys.
Not so far.
Today was amazing. I'm very thankful to John for inviting me. Gets me out of the canyon. But today we collaborated, we communicated, and we dreamed about what is beyond just getting the installation of fiber optic into the community. And we had a really great visionary day because of that. So I just have a couple notes because I don't want to forget some important things. So what was going to be the positive transformation that the fiber optic would bring to Nevada County into our lives? So we did. We looked in the future, and it was like, if you had $1 million, what would you do? So we got to dream, and we cited several areas of our community that would be positively enhanced. In fact, it's been said many times tonight from the other speakers, and by the way, Blair, you said everything I was going to say tonight. It stole my gig. So arts and music, such as broadcasting our talented people's works and performances, interactive access to our government, access for the disabled, infrastructure improvements and crazy infrastructure improvements, healthcare collaboration and data exchange, quality education and access to worldwide curriculum, ability to train our workforce quicker, faster, in-company job training and skills improvements. And that's just a short list. That was a super, super short list. And I know all of you have already been dreaming about what the Gigabit project is gonna bring into your homes. So we got to do that too. So anyone here tonight already knows the benefits of it. The best news about today, really the best news about today, is the fire in the steam engine has been stoked. We are thinking and we are planning, and we got that steam locomotive running, and it's rolling along, right? Okay. So, there's another little piece though. Nevada County is going to be part of history again. We are not strangers to innovation. We've been doing innovation for over 100 years, right, John? Nevada County is great with that. So, my thanks to John and Chip for your vision for our lives, because this is for everybody, and we're so thankful for that. It was a great day.
It's more than vision, it's tenacity. The fact that John and Chip led the charge and stuck with the charge is a strong statement of their commitment to the project, but it goes way, way beyond that. There's a couple of really solid takeaways from this afternoon, and just from observing, because I float around in different kinds of environments, is it's a validation from Ann and Aaron and Mike and Blair that this is real and what we're doing is the correct path for our area. It's an affirmation from seeing the people who, you know, I know most of them, who were there committed to the deep work to carry it forward. And then we're just looking at steps by saying it's no longer the dream, it's the reality, and now it's the getting it done, the hard work, the digging the trenches, filling them in, and connected everybody. Because as I've been saying all along, everybody who is there is kind of asking the simple question, well, when and how much? And I think somewhat vaguely, John answered both questions, and it's, well, no, I mean, the point is really, you're not going to be calling up customer service at AT&T and wondering why the heck your bill is $600 or whatever it is. It's going to be the right thing to carry this entire community forward, and everybody who was there today, and obviously demonstrated by a full house here tonight, sees the importance, and now, you know, here it comes to life. So it's a thank you to a community, and I think it was Blair who said, this is a community project, and the community is there to do this with all of us. So,
great. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Tim. So a statement is coming a written statement is coming out of the workshop today. It's going to be actually extraordinarily long, and we have to hone it down to something that's more readable. But we will post that. We have all your email addresses. We'll send you out information when it comes out. It's very moving. It's where Nevada County will look like, what Nevada County will look like in 2024, and you'll definitely want to read it. I'd like to bring Ramspott back up again. He has something he'd like to share with us.
So hello everyone. Just a quick show of hands. How many people in here, I was seeing some earlier from the folks that recognized me, how many people in here are Spiral customers? Yeah. That's a pretty good turnout. How many people here would like to be? All right. We are looking forward to serving all of you. I mean, we are excited to get this going and have the entire county, or as close to it as we can get, you know, while we're able to build this fiber out, covered. And I think one of the things we're doing here today, though, is we are looking to the future in a way that is honoring and respecting the past and respecting the community, the wonderful community that we've got here. We were going to come and bring up our customer number one, Dan Bielhauer. He could not be here today due to personal obligations, but we were able to sit down with him and record a short video interview. So I would like to present customer number one, Dan Bielhauer, talking a little bit about what's going on. Dan, you are literally customer number one in our database. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got started out as the NCCN's first customer once upon a time?
I had a business associate that was a friend, and we were talking about getting internet service because it was relatively new at that time in our area.
This was in the mid-1990s?
We were figuring the 90s, somewhere in there, and he told me about NCC, and he said, use that one. It's a community-supported network. And I said, fine. And I didn't know how to sign up. So I was out at the fair that year, walking through the big display booth, and there was the big NCCN sign. And I walked over and started talking to him, and I signed up at the fair, and that was the first day. And I didn't know I was number one until I had called over a few times for tech support, and the gal that answered the phone said, I think of you every day. And I said, well, why is that? I don't even know you. She said, when we boot up our computers, your name and everything comes up on the screen first. She said, you're number one in our database. And I, wow, that's kind of cool. So I was always impressed about that. And then when Spiral took over, whenever I call and I get you on the phone for tech support, I tell you who I am, and I always tell you I'm numero uno. So that was the start of it.
Yeah, and back in the day, that was dial-up internet service.
Yes.
Took over your phone line. You would have to plug your computer in, and you couldn't place phone calls. And then it was a big deal when we switched over to DSL in the mid-2000s for you.
I like that a lot better because you could try and download something on dial-up and go cook dinner while it was downloaded. It took so long,
And the difference in speeds between dial-up and DSL is about a factor of 100, and we're going to be doing that again. We're really excited about that, and in fact, you are in our first project area for that fiber switch. Are you looking forward to that availability?
Yes, I've heard a little bit about it. I don't quite understand how it works, but if it's going to be even faster, I like that.
Yeah, we'd like to actually extend an offer to you of 1 year of free fiber service. If you, once we are able to start getting it out to your house, you know, as customer number one, we would love to, you know, keep that continuity.
I like that. I like that. You've given me very good service over the years. I really appreciate all the technical support and just the help when I had to bring in a computer or an iPhone over here to have you help me get it set up. Because back when it was dial-up, I was pretty computer literate. Now, forget it.
It's a pretty big technological
Yes.
change, but we're looking forward to continuing to support you.
Well, I appreciate your help and assistance. Thank you, Max.
Thank you, Dan.
That's how it is every day at Spiral Internet. So come on by. Next is, Dan's going to get service for a year because we like Dan, and that's kind of cool. When we realized customer number 1 was in our project area, we're pretty pleased about that, but a lot of you are going to be, and some of you will be in project phase 2 and phase 3. So we needed to figure out a way to find out where you're at and to mark yourself into our database. So we subscribed to a new online service called CrowdFiber that we found at one of the conferences we were at. And we're going to be using that here. And I would like to bring up Sandy Jansen, who is our neighborhood coordinator, to talk a little bit about CrowdFiber, just a tiny little bit, because all the information is on the back of the program. And you can go home and read about it, and then go online and make a mark. Sandy, go ahead.
Right. Are we lucky? Are we the people of Nevada County lucky? I mean, look at what we're going to be getting here. We're going to get things that, we're going to get a Gigabit. We're going to get all this stuff. Google Gigabit.
A Gigabit. I like a Gigabit. We're going to get a Gigabit.
But at any rate, that might be a new one. You were looking for a marketing thing.
Molly and I have been thinking about, Gigabit. We're going to work on Gigabit.
I like that.
Because we're going to laugh at all the other broadband, right? Yeah. Okay.
And the thing of it is that we at Spiral are going to have so much fun doing this.
We are
going to have a blast.
So Sandy, tell us a little bit about CrowdFiber.
Okay, CrowdFiber is, there it is right there, spiral.crowdfiber.com.
It's on your program.
It's on your program, so you can take the program home and remember how to do it. What this program is going to do is help us gather all the information about where you are, where the interest is, and then you can come back to this site several times for updates, but you can also perhaps use it to talk to your neighbors and friends. Go on Nevada County Peeps, get everybody going. We need everybody to sign up here because this will help us determine which areas, which streets we can get to quickly and first because they're ready to go. You've got, we're looking for maximum sign up on all of our streets. And that is a lot, but that's my goal, and I intend to help the neighborhoods out there achieve that kind of goal where we get close to 100% of the people signing up for this because who's not gonna want it, I mean, that's really the point.
So Sandy, so the maps will be up there that we showed you earlier. You'll be able to see. What happens if you're not in our project area? Do they have to cry?
No, I don't think they have to cry. Just let us know that you may not be in our project area, but the point is that knowing that you want in, I will help you if you want to help. We will get other people interested in your neighborhood, and maybe we will wiggle the line so that you are included. That's what this is going to be all about, is we're going to see what we can do to create interest amongst the neighbors, and you can help do that. It's a very simple thing. For those of you who have slow speed now, it's not that many pages to load to sign up to this thing, for one thing. It's only 2 pages, and we'll get you there.
If for some reason you have dial-up, you can call our office and talk to Sandy, and she'll input your data for you. So we're happy to do that. Don't worry about not having anything.
Right.
Okay. Thank you, Sandy, very much. And spiral.crowdfiber.com is where it all starts. So before we move on to the finale, what I want to say is we're still in process of getting our funding. It's moving ahead. But what we found out last week is that if you can write letters to the California Public Utilities Commission, it will really help us. And imagine all of us writing letters. So we're going to put that information up on the URL that's in the back of the program tomorrow sometime, and maybe look at it over the weekend. It'll be a sample letter there, and if you could mail them out, it will actually make a huge impact for us, and it also will make impact for future grants that we apply for. So we ask you and your friends and your community and your family to send letters out to the commissioners, and we'll give you all that information. So that's, again, the back on your program. So, are we at the finale? We are. I have had the pleasure of knowing and working with David Nicholson, who's here, from the 959 Google Video. David is an awesome filmmaker and editor, and I called him and said, you know, we need a video for our kickoff event. What do you think? He said, okay. So, brought David on to do that. And then I said, we need a voiceover. I said, Molly, you know, I'm gonna go out on a limb here, but I think the 21st century is about women coming into their own and the men joining with them. But that may be me. But I think there's a partnership that's happening, so I wanted Molly to do the voiceover. So without further ado, let's begin.
It starts with light, the burst of a laser moving faster than imagination, pushing words, images, songs, video, conversations, point to point, connecting places to places, people to places, people to each other, limitless in its reach. Throughout the county, across the country, around the world. It starts in the hills where gold was found, the town where the first long-distance phone call was made, the river where Western hydroelectric power began, where Pong was coded and arcade video games were born, where broadcast technology continues rapid innovation into digital media. It ends with light. Long-distance learning, telemedicine, remote collaboration, and applications yet to be dreamed of. Northern California's first rural gigabit community. Brought to you by Spiral. Internet at the speed of your mind.
Thank you. Do you want to watch it again? How many people want to watch it one more time? It's short. I love it. Let's, one more time. Oh, I get to do that, right? Okay, so I gotta go back. No, we don't have to do the laser on this, Mark, then. Oop. Okay, hang on.
It starts with light, the burst of a laser moving faster than imagination, pushing words, images, songs, video, conversations. Point to point, connecting places to places, people to places, people to each other. Limitless in its reach, throughout the county, across the country, around the world. It starts in the hills where gold was found, the town where the first long-distance phone call was made, the river where Western hydroelectric power began, where Pong was coded and arcade video games were born, where broadcast technology continues rapid innovation into digital media. It ends with light. Long-distance learning, telemedicine, remote collaboration, and applications yet to be dreamed of. Northern California's first rural gigabit community. Brought to you by Spiral. Internet at the speed of your mind.
Wow. So that last building that was overhead, Spiral is going to be moving to the Nevada City Tech Center. And we're going to do that sometime in the spring. We're going to have a brand new office. We're going to have a 25-seat classroom. We're going to do classes there. We're really looking forward to where we're moving with this. But thank you for coming tonight. We're going to be around for a little while. We have cake and bubbly in the other room. All our guests will be here. Wait, someone's pointing to something. What, Sandy? Oh, we forgot something. Thank you. So if you look on the back of your program and there's a little cupcake, because we're talking about cupcakes here, you have won one of Molly Fisk's books, How to Blow Dry a Chicken, which I just finished reading, and it's, who got a cupcake? So come on up and you'll get your free book. Sandy will give it to you here. Sandy, you want it? It's up there, so check on up there. But go out to the, you got a cupcake, so you got one of the books. It's a great book. It's a wonderful book. And Molly's coming out with a new one soon, right? So I don't, who are we going to blow dry in the next book? We don't know yet. Using Your Turn Signal to Promote World Peace is a new book coming out. Okay, so thanks for coming. We're going to continue to give you information about this. We're all going to hang around to talk to us and go out and have some cake and let's celebrate. We're building our future here. Thank you.